Good evening, you're watching Left, Right and Centre. I'm Nidhi Razdan. Tonight, in just a few weeks, the man who was a minor when he brutally raped and killed Nirbhaya will walk free from a remand home after just 3 years. The law has been followed, but has justice been done? As more teenagers commit heinous crimes, is it time to lower the juvenile age to 15, as suggested by Arvind Kejriwal? Also tonight, as the diplomatic row escalates between India and Nepal and Kathmandu turns to China, what explains the astonishing decline in ties in just 1 year? Is this a foreign policy disaster for New Delhi? That's coming up in about 30 minutes. But first, in a few weeks, the man who brutally raped and killed Nirbhaya, the December 16th gang rape victim, will be free. He was a juvenile when he committed the crime and spent the last 3 years in a remand home. His release is making many people uncomfortable, but as Minister Maneka Gandhi pointed out, the law has been followed. Sonal Mehrotra has more.
मैं एक बार सरकार से अपनी न्याय व्यवस्था से रिक्वेस्ट करना चाहती हूँ कि उसको बाहर ना आना दिया जाए। ऐसे मेंटालिटी के लोग बदलते नहीं हैं। उसको मौका देने का मतलब जो उस उम्र के बच्चे हैं, जो हमारे 18 साल से कम के उम्र के बच्चे हैं, उनमें बहुत गलत असर पड़ेगा।
It's been almost 3 years since the horrific December 16 gang rape. But for Nirbhaya's parents, the trauma of seeing their daughter's rapist and killer walk free is unnerving. The juvenile convict in the case, who has now turned 21, is due to release in December. After serving his 3-year sentence, his release has opened up old wounds and old debates.
अगर रेप, मर्डर या कोई हीनस क्राइम होता है, तो उस केस में जुवेनाइल वाली जो एज है वो 15 साल होनी चाहिए.
He is a person who should be kept under watch. We can't just let him go and wait for him to do something else again.
The Juvenile Justice Bill, which seeks to lower the age of juveniles from 18 to 16 years of age, still hangs in the Parliament.
Today we're talking about 16. Tomorrow, Mr. Arvind Kejriwal talked about 15. So we will keep making these ad hoc, knee-jerk changes in the law without actually addressing the malaise that lies within the whole reformation system.
The minor convict in the Nirbhaya gang rape case comes from these bylanes of the national capital. In fact, the official data says that most of the juveniles found in conflict with law come from resettlement colonies. But despite their arrest and several warnings, offences by young adults continue to be a regular feature here, leading many to fear that once out of the observation home, will the juvenile in the Nirbhaya case also fall back on old meals. Here, however, the child rights activists argue that it's the system that has failed the juveniles, and lowering the age perhaps is not the answer. In New Delhi with camera person Ashwini, I'm Sonal Mehrotra, NDTV.
Well, joining us on the program tonight is from the BJP, senior leader and party member Ejaz Ilmi. Manish Tiwari, senior Congress leader and lawyer, joins us as well. Mihir Sood, a well-known lawyer and activist, in the studio with us. Raghav Chadda from the Aam Aadmi Party, and Mr. Harpal Singh, the chairperson of Save the Children, the global vice chair of Save the Children International as well. Let me begin by throwing this question to you, Mr. Harpal Singh. How do you feel, when 3 years later, we're at a situation where this boy is going to walk free? And in this particular case, it's something that grabbed national headlines. It has made everybody angry. It has anguished a lot of people, particularly the young girl's parents. What are your thoughts today as you see him getting ready to walk out?
Firstly, I think we cannot stop but constantly reminding ourselves that the nature of this crime was absolutely heinous. It was brutal to a point where everybody's sensitivity has been touched. And I think that's a reality that we have to sort of contend with. On the other hand, I think we should also not sort of respond in a manner that is arbitrary and saying, let's reduce the juvenile age, let's do a set of things that might not necessarily be. One must remember, 40% of this country's population are under 18 years of age. Let's worry about what is going to happen to the 40% rather than just be driven by incidences, which will always happen no matter what we make the law to be. So I would imagine that what we don't have in the law right now is that a provision which says that when a crime is of this character, of the most heinous variety, at that point in time I think there should be another institutional framework which refers the matter to a group of sociologists, psychologists, social workers, who then evaluate whether this particular child, whether it's 16 years old, 17 or whatever, is able to respond in an adult fashion, is grown up enough to recognize.
So in a way, case by case, depending on the
in the cases of where heinous crimes are committed, it should be referred to that. Less than that, the age should remain at 18, and we should make sure that a large amount of the implementation side, actually the Juvenile Justice Act has been enacted in the year 2000. We've had amendments subsequently. But if you actually see on the ground realities, the way that act has been enacted is rather poor and is certainly not supportive of children.
Well, I think a lot of people also need to remember that even if we have this debate on the lowering of the juvenile age, it wouldn't apply in this case retrospectively in any case. So regardless of where this debate goes over the next few weeks and months, as far as this accused is concerned, he has done everything according to the law now and will walk free. Manish Tiwari, the question then is it a knee-jerk reaction by some political parties today to call for the lowering of the juvenile age, or do you believe as a lawyer as well that this is a debate that India needs to have? And how do we decide then what that age should be? What age is the right age for a child to be treated as an adult?
I think, Nidhi, you need to step back a little and go back to the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child, or Child Rights as it is called. That convention came into force, if I remember correctly, in 1989. Yes. India ratified it in 1992, and it was in 2000, in the light of the ratification of that convention, that the Juvenile Justice Act was not only amended, but it was recast by the then NDA government. Now, Article 1 of that convention very clearly states that the age of a child would be 18 years unless it is determined to the contrary by law. Now, under those circumstances, if you do decide to amend the law, you would really be going back on a convention which you have ratified, and then you have accordingly brought your statute or your law in sync with that convention. Yes, what happened in Nirbhaya's case is absolutely reprehensible. You know, it's preposterous, and it's something which shocked the conscience of the nation. But to possibly use an isolated incident, by isolated I mean isolated in the sheer depravity of the crime, to trigger off a change in the entire Juvenile Justice Act and lower the age to 16 or 15, I guess is being a bit too presumptuous, because then the question would be, why 16? Why not 14? And if why not 14, why not 12? So where is this going to really stop? So under those circumstances, I think the lawmakers, in consultation with all those people who had contributed to bringing the Juvenile Justice Act to fruition, had possibly applied themselves very thoroughly, and then they had decided upon a particular age.
No,
and
so let
incidentally,
me
on
take
one
that to the
hand,
Aam Aadmi
while
Party.
we are raising the age of consent.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Let me take that to the Aam Aadmi Party, because there is a GOM.
May I just complete?
Okay.
All that I was saying, Nidhi, and I'll just take one sentence, that on one hand, we want to raise the age of consent to 18. On the other hand, we want to lower the age of a juvenile to 16 or 15, or even lower than that. I guess possibly we are somewhere missing the entire argument of having a standard age of adulthood across the board. For example, it is preposterous to have the drinking age at 25.
I need to take that, Manish, to Raghav Chadha of the Aam Aadmi Party, that Raghav, then is it that there is a concern that why 15? Already you have a bill that is there in Parliament which has talked about lowering the age from 18 to 16. Arvind Kejriwal has taken that a step further to 15, and I understand why, because Delhi saw a series of extremely horrendous child rapes that took place, where 17, 16-year-old boys were arrested for brutally raping little children. But the question then, Raghav, is this the solution? Is this the way out? Raghav.
Yes. So, first of all, the Honorable Chief Minister of Delhi has set up a group of ministers to look into various aspects of child and women's safety and security, which include setting up of fast track courts, which includes putting up CCTV cameras, setting up forensic labs, etc. Two of the terms of reference of that committee are, number one, that in cases where the victims are minors, should there or can there be enhanced punishment? And number two, cases in which heinous crimes, underline the word heinous crimes like murders and rapes, are committed by juveniles, should they and can they be tried as adults? So these are the terms, a part of the terms of reference of this committee. Once this committee recommends and examines all these propositions, only then can we comment on this. Now, referring back to what are the global standards and what does the United Nations Convention for Rights of Child says, I hold in my hand an international comparison of criminal laws, and this comparison is on the age at which juvenile can be tried as an adult. In the United States of America, it's 13 years. In South Africa, it's 16 years. In France, it's 16 years. In Canada, it's 14 years. In Germany, it's 14 years. So I think India now needs to have a healthy debate and evolve the definition of juvenile offenses, juvenile offenders, and also needs to improve its understanding, of vulnerability and offenses. And this needs to happen in the context of the rapidly evolving and growing society. I, for one, Nidhi, do not believe that the person who will be free in a few weeks from now should be, let go of because because somebody believes that at some point he did not have the ability to comprehend the consequences of committing such a crime, or did not have the ability to make a reasoned choice. I think there is a need that deterrence needs to be created. Law needs to deter juveniles from committing such acts, and at the same time, sensitization programs, etc., also need to be carried out.
No, Raghav, you make an important point, and the comparisons that are made with other countries are also interesting. But Ejaz, when you look at this particular case, this guy was just under 18. He was few months short of 18 when he committed this crime on this girl. And it really, it makes me angry till today to even think about the fact that, he's going to walk free after 3 years. No, so the question is that does the BJP support what Arvind Kejriwal is saying on this issue of heinous crimes and lowering the age? The bill says 16, he's saying 15. Where does it stop?
We haven't stopped at this. We're talking about an amendment for heinous crimes. A clear separation in the definition of heinous crimes like rape and murder by juveniles that is where we're trying to get at. We don't want to just limit the Juvenile Act that it's a maximum of 3 years' time. In this particular case, the legal processes may have been served, but justice, I don't think, in my personal opinion, and I'm sure a lot of us would be revolted at the fact that somebody who's committed these crimes is going to be out again. So definitely the suggestion of the government that he should be monitored further is very important, because the reality is the reformation that is required is not happening. It's appalling. The condition of rehabilitation and reformation of juveniles is virtually non-existent, and it's government neutral. All governments are responsible for this.
Okay, but that's an important point. I asked Mr. Singh about that, but Meera Sood, you don't believe that the juvenile age should be lowered. But you also see statistics showing more and more, teenagers committing crimes. How do we, tackle this problem?
Well, Nidhi, a couple of things. Firstly, it's not as if the juvenile justice system has been properly implemented thus far that we can say, okay, right now it's failed and we need to lower the age. If you've not even properly implemented it this far, then it doesn't make any sense to say now we're going to, in fact, make it worse by strengthening a system that has not been properly implemented. Today you say this person was just short of 18. Tomorrow a person could be just short of 16, just short of 15. There are always going to be difficult cases, but you don't decide policy based on extreme cases. You decide policy based on the majority of cases, the probability. And yes, it is unfortunate that some cases will always fall through the cracks, but that's the same with any law. You have to set a limit somewhere if you want to avoid arbitrariness. Now, I understand that it's an emotional issue. People are saying, what about justice? But what I want to ask is, today you have a situation where These people have also been grown up in brutal conditions. They've been brutalized by society. The state has its own role to play in brutalizing certain segments of society. Today you say this person has brutalized somebody else, so the state will brutalize them in turn. Then you have somebody coming and saying, okay, well, maybe you need to try a shot, a genuine shot, not just on paper, at reformation, at rehabilitation. Give it a chance. Now, which is justice? I understand people are crying out for justice, but to my mind, we need to think about what justice is. Is justice only revenge or retribution? Is reformation not a part of justice?
Does it have to be revenge? I mean, no one's saying there are people who are calling for the death penalty, but at the very least, I think a lot of people say let the guy remain behind bars.
But how do we even know?
I'm
today
asking
people are
whether
saying he's
there
not
should
reformed. Has anybody even met him or spoken to him to decide
apparently
that he's
some
not
people have, and
reformed?
I'm going to come to that. But the question is, Harpal Singh says maybe it should be looked at by a case-by-case basis, depending on the severity of the crime. Is it time to at least do that? I mean, in this case, there is no way the guy should be walking out after 3 years. I honestly, genuinely believe that. Look at the brutality of the crime. And it's not something that is said emotionally. You look at the facts of the Nirbhaya case.
Yeah, but the flip side of that is, Nidhi, you say that a person who is immature or a person who is of an impressionable mind would not have committed such a crime. But my argument or my counter to that is, it's hardly a sign of maturity to be committing a crime like that. To my mind, it speaks of somebody who is completely unable to appreciate the consequences of what they are doing.
Is that the case, Raghav?
Are we looking at populism, or are we looking at long-term solutions?
Okay, so is it populism, Raghav? Is it populism versus a genuine shot at rehabilitation of young people who sort of get misled on the wrong path, who, as Mihira says, are also brutalized by society?
I don't think it's populism. I think it's pragmatism. I think we are now living in a society where at this point as we speak, juvenile offenders do not have the fear of law. There are instances where 2.5-year-old girls are being raped by juveniles, 4-year-olds are being raped by minors, and these are horrific incidents. They send a chill down our spine, and there is a need to create deterrence.
That's true.
And
but
even if you look at statistics, the NCRB report, if you go through the 2014 figures, you will find out that 75% of the crimes against minors were committed by juveniles. So there are compelling reasons to have a debate. I am not saying to arrive at a conclusion tonight, but to have a healthy debate and evolve our understanding of what juvenile justice is, what juvenile offenses are, what juvenile offenders stand for, and how can we as a society progress. And it is, I think, for India now to debate this, looking at how Western democracies have also evolved over the years. What is their stand on, such crimes being committed by juveniles?